Grand Army was never the same as Euphoria, and it's all because of a dildo, a pink dildo. More on that later. Sam Levinson was born in 1985. That wasn't a spectacular event. However, Grand Army was released roughly 35 summers after his birth. The latter, just like Sam, had a lot of untapped potential, but unlike Sam, the series was spectacular. If you were to ask anyone who's aware about the existence of the two, they'll be quick to say all that potential was wasted. Let me explain.
The Big Dipper.
It's sad that Netflix pulled the plug on one of its few shows that left us wanting more. It's kind of funny how this series is what Euphoria should have been. Grand Army is a series that takes place at a high school in NYC. It's a coming of age story that has a twist unlike most coming of age tales. Euphoria is about a girl who can't stop popping pills and finding herself in trouble. Grand Army follows Joey. She has a couple of friends, but one day her friend group is reduced by 2 when her male besties decide that they want to be forceful with her and be more than just friends and engage in debauchery. She was slightly intoxicated and her besties decided that in that taxi they're going to be barbaric and commit a heinous act. I knew something sinister was being foreshadowed when Joey's friend made a racist remark about the cab driver. Bro basically called him a curry muncher and said because of this he smells like a sewer, but hey, we've all said crazy things when we were younger, right? After this vile act happens, that's when the story really starts to take off. It's interesting how this show and Euphoria basically have parallels that happen a bit too much for them to be a coincidence. For example, take the twins in Euphoria. They kinda remind me of Jason and John. Nate from Euphoria has a similar yet strikingly different persona and characteristics to Sid. Sid is kinda low-key cringe with his internal monologues, but hey, the show tried. Cassie and Maddie are basically Layla split into 2. It's a bit too scary when you actually think that there's a high possibility that Samuel could have been eavesdropping around New York and Hollywood in order to get some inspiration. Emphasis on the inspiration. Look, there's an entire story arc in Grand Army about how the jock and cool guy Sid is battling with his identity. He's sure that he likes women, but then sometimes he thinks of kissing other boys. This is quite literally Nate. That's half of the reason why Nathaniel is always short-tempered. It's cause he's probably hiding in the closet and he doesn't know how to feel about it. Look at the similarities. Nate is the jock, Nate is the hotshot of East Highland, Sid is the hotshot at Grand Army, Nate has an addiction to adult videos, Nate keeps photos of other dudes' eggplants on his phone, like come on man. I might get some flack for saying this next statement, but I think it's far from false. Euphoria, more specifically season 1, is solid, but Grand Army is way more realistic. The catalyst for the entire series is that there was a bomb threat. Euphoria is about this girl who's famous in her hometown for being in and out of rehab and dressing like a tomboy as well as manipulating her friends like a narcissist in order to stay on cloud 9. The whole show is quite literally about Rue chasing Euphoria. It's on the nose. Zendaya's Rue has like 3 things that make up her personality. 1, she's lesbian. 2, she knows how to beat a drug test. And the third and final observation is that she has a slick mouth. Odysseus Joey is straight. She likes being the center of attention to a certain extent and she too has a slick mouth. Joey's character is one deeply shrouded in trauma. Same thing with Rue, except Euphoria is on HBO, so best believe that the sometimes severity of the issues being discussed on screen will get overshadowed by the crude and vile statements handwritten by our favorite Nepo baby, Sam Levinson. Euphoria can go from having an entire dialogue about how nothing in high school lasts forever and then be contrasted by a scene of Nate yelling or roughing up someone just to show them he's an apex predator. The series is basically what happens when one storyline about a rehab attendee starts to become too convoluted and played out. Sometimes Euphoria gets so tangled you start to forget that it's a show about a teenager with a pill problem. Grand Army managed to succeed in the aspect that I still feel like these are high school problems. For almost every character in the show, I can relate back to someone who I know in real life that I went to school with who reminds me of the on-screen characters we were introduced to throughout the first season. For example, Sid is perceived as this cool laid-back guy. There was someone I went to school with who acted the exact same way until one day they beat him up and put him in a locker. And to add to this, he tried too hard to be macho. I can't help but think he was a proud member of the alphabet community now when I think about it. There were these two guys who were forever orbiting around this one girl. She clearly didn't like them, but I could kinda tell that these guys were competing for her affection. It was very, very platonic on her end, but these guys would stay around her like a moth does a light bulb. So every time I saw Joey with her two besties in the show, I was like, I've seen this scenario many times. The classic case of the male friend claiming, yeah, we're just friends. You're one of the bros. But the entire time he's scheming and strategizing on how he's going to make you the mother of his kids, whether you like it or not. It's cruel and abnormal, but it's far from uncommon. Grand Army tackles the theme of identity crisis very well in a very realistic manner. After Joey is violated, she has chronic PTSD. She can't stop thinking about being betrayed by the people she trusted the most. I'm going to receive backlash for what I'm about to say next. Don't judge me just yet. Let me tell the whole story. It'll be explained in under 60 seconds. The third episode was painfully brutal for me, specifically the cinema scene. That unlocked a memory I've been desperately trying to eradicate for months. Once I went to the cinema with this girl, and from the get-go, it was torture. When I was like, let's Uber there, she was like, aight. But the minute we were at the concession stand, she brought up the fact that if her boyfriend never cheated on her, he could have drove us there. That was a bruise to my ego for numerous reasons. First of all, why are you talking about him? And secondly, why are you talking about him? So I know just how Tim felt watching his girl get passed around like a baton during a relay. This isn't odd at all. There was this dude in high school who got mad at me once because I was talking to his girlfriend. He was insecure and he tried to press me about it. Funny thing is that he ended up cheating and he ended up dying too. And to add to this, literally within 2 weeks of his passing, his best friend at the time started dating his now ex-girlfriend. Like, bro was so upset with me, yet the entire time his ride or die was wanting his girl for the longest. Euphoria is like Riverdale. The longer it continues, the more and more bizarre the story becomes. Like, yeah, Nate is sleeping with his ex's bestie. That's a normal plot point to me, but then this is the same show that inserts plot points about the main character snooping in and out of a trapper's house and almost potentially getting drugged and trafficked? Plus, Euphoria is like a niche experience. The people who resonate the most with Euphoria are people who have had some form of addiction. And you can say that's a hypocritical stance since with Grand Army, the main character is a victim of SA. That's true, but the biggest problem with Euphoria is that it wants to make complex characters by complicating the characters in relation to them by making them have a level of nuance that I don't resonate with. Let me give you the perfect example. For example, we have Jules. Jules is a minor, but she sleeps with old men who sometimes are even married. This isn't even normal high schooler behavior. If you were to ask me, this wouldn't even take place in Florida. Samuel clearly has a problem, but that's a story for another time. Grand Army has a character called Dominique. She's actually having real problems in her household and she's worried about her academics and her future. Then there's Euphoria, a show where I've never seen anyone who goes to East Highland do their homework. No, like seriously, have you ever seen anyone in this show ask their friend to solve an algebra problem for them? No, but every kid in this show knows where to get contraband from. Instead of doing homework, you have people like Maddie who practices how to throw it back in her spare time. Like, don't you need to worry about SATs or something? I'll end the video by saying this. Euphoria is synonymous to Ice Spice's catalog. At first it was intriguing, but the longer you pay attention to it, the more you start to notice the lack of depth, the more you venture down the rabbit hole. Grand Army is like Doja Cat's catalog. There are a bunch of hidden gems that never truly got the credit they deserved. Some never even saw the light of day. The biggest similarity between these shows is that they're both guilty of the conventional cliche teenage stereotypes regarding coming of age stories. Also, one more thing. F Layla, her entire character pisses me off until this day.